going back to what we were talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, I actually tried to find out who did the like when you turn on your PS4, there's the startup sound, and then there's also like the menu screen music, and it's genuinely beautiful. And I was like, I have to find out who did this, and I scoured the internet and I never found anything.
Well,
So it's one of those nameless geniuses, like Brian Eno doing the Windows 95 startup is the only one I can think of that I know. Like, it's that artist.
right. I guess, in my brain, I'm like, why would you spend so much money to like pay someone for a single tone, like the Taco Bell, like dong? But because I thought like just have someone in house, but then I realized like you need one of those things every 5 years. That doesn't make any sense.
The Taco Bell dong is so funny because I did an Instagram video about it because I bought an old Yamaha DX7, which is like the 80s synth. You know what they are. Yeah, they're like 1,000 pounds. It's a digital synth. But on the first like preset card that I put in there, I was just like scrolling through and I was like, that sounds familiar. And then it's like E below middle C, bong. That's what it was. It was the DX7 preset 27 or whatever.
And someone made 50 grand.
Yeah. But I mean, that sound. It's like Pavlov's dogs, man.
Right. But you don't, the first person who ever heard it didn't think, oh, I want tacos. It was,
no,
it was only
that's
Pavlovian because it was reinforced.
That's advertising, my man.
Could have been anything.
But yeah, sometimes I think the person that did the sound design for the Switch, like I love all that stuff, like the snaps and really gentle sounds that are in the Switch.
Oh, like when you're scrolling around.
Yeah, or when you like open the eShop.
Whoa, that sounds fun. I don't hear that enough. I guess I don't do enough e-shopping.
I'm not surprised that you don't do a lot of e-shopping. That is not surprising. Speaking of Nintendo Switch, have you been to the Joe Biden Fortnite Island?
No, I haven't. I'm curious. I saw you sent that post about it, and I read about it, but I have not been there. Where is it?
It's in like there's a creative mode where you can basically design an island. I've never done it, so I'm not probably going to describe it super accurately, but creators can make their own like space in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And so to enter one of these, you have to have a code. So that's what I sent you was the code to enter, because the like Biden-Harris, someone in the campaign made this space.
Gotcha.
And it's like you like pop in on at the Malarkey station.
Right. I read that you arrive by train.
Yeah.
The No Malarkey station.
Yeah. I think if I was going to I would probably
At the No Malarkey station?
Joe Biden's Fortnite Island.
I mean, I don't... It's a serious subject, so there's no malarkey there. Okay, so yeah, I guess that might bring us to the topic of the presidential election in this country.
Mm-hmm. In which country? I'm not familiar with what you're referring to.
I'm sure everyone knows my voice. This is Will speaking, or Noon, as some of you may know me. And I live in the United States of America, which is really, honestly, a weird name for a country. Because
it is pretty weird.
Mexico is part of the Americas, North and South America, and yeah, like the proper name of their country is the United States of Mexico. But anyways, yeah, so the United States of America is having a presidential election. We have been having one. There's been campaigning. There's been early voting, which has been really popular because A, pandemic, B, this crazy election cycle. And it's getting pretty wild. So hopefully it will end soon, and hopefully we'll have a less bad president for a while.
You know what's great is that I'm going to be able to sleep through most of it. I mean, not most of, because obviously this is going to be dragged out for weeks or months or whatever. But for like the the like ulcer-inducing stress of like mainstream media coverage.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember we lived together in 2016 for that election, but I don't remember you and I watching like CNN together. I remember watching CNN when it started tipping, and I left the house. But
Yeah, I was in Hawaii at the time, as one does.
it's tricky because I feel like I've been consciously trying to like not look at projections of the outcome necessarily. I've been looking at like some polling stuff, but I feel like that doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I've been avoiding it. I mean, I see random polls pop up on my feeds, and I think, oh, okay, that's fine, that's cool, but I don't know. I just think everything is I mean, I shouldn't say everything is a wild card. I should say the way our system is set up, there are
Exactly.
certain wild cards that matter, and there are certain places that are not wild cards at all.
Exactly.
The Electoral College, that whole system, the Senate, I just think those are stupid.
Yeah, I think that it's pretty universal that, well, it's really dumb to even be talking about this right now because it won't come out until tomorrow at the earliest.
Right.
So we're going to be proven wrong or right by then, I guess. But it seems universal that Biden's going to win the popular vote by like probably more than Hillary won by.
Right. And exactly, that's the problem. It doesn't matter. I guess, I don't know if I was going to go backwards, but basically I just wanted to jump back to when you said ulcer inducing and how you've been trying to avoid things and you won't be around for that. I wanted to mention that just because of the way my brain works, like I don't think about that at all. I'm just like, yeah, we're going to deal with it. It's probably not going to be good. I mean, best case scenario, we have Biden, who I don't think is going to be a great president. So I don't know. Like that's like best case scenario is still not great. There's still like tons of work to do as humans and individuals and local governments and all the way up. But not everyone feels the same way as I do. And some people care about things and stress about things. And I didn't realize that. So I came up to Crestline and I was like, oh, I'm going to vote because this is where like my house is and this is where I'm, registered. And my girlfriend was like, oh, so you're not going to be around on election night when I'm like freaking out and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, whoops. So I may actually drive back down tonight, depending on how stressful things get for normal humans. Anyway, I think the point that I didn't even get close to making was that I am just sort of a robot person, and it doesn't have to do with how good or bad things are. I don't see the benefit of the concept of worrying. Like the act of it, the process of it, it just doesn't make sense to me. I like to prepare for the future, but the worrying about a bad thing happening that isn't guaranteed is just taking the actual real effects of the bad thing and absorbing them from the future into the present, and embracing them and having them actualize before it actually happens. And it's weird because it might not ever happen.
I think a lot of people are very envious that you're able to deal with stress and worry in such a way, because I am not one of those people. I let it affect me kind of a lot. And there's a saying that I learned in one of my stints in rehab where this older gentleman said, if you've got 1 foot in tomorrow and 1 foot in yesterday, you're pissing on today.
Yeah, that's great.
And that's something that I play in my head like literally multiple times a day.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I think that's reasonable.
Rehab wisdom. Maybe we should start a section in the podcast where we do rehab wisdom, because I got a lot of great sayings like that.
That actually might be a really good idea. We're talking about it lightheartedly, but the people in those programs, the people that have dealt with that, whether they're at the beginning of their journey or at the end, they've gone through a lot of things, and they're the people that either have experienced it and are armed with the knowledge, or the people that need it. So, yeah, the people that come out on the other side, both, the veterans and the new ones, yeah, it seems legit.
Totally. The only people that I have respect for are the people that have been through it. That's like half sarcastic.
So you have no respect for me.
I'm kidding. I mean, yeah, I'm kidding. But
again, we're saying this in a very lighthearted way, but to a certain extent, I do agree. I think of it in terms of adversity, or rather overcoming adversity, and people that have been through things like that and had to overcome those odds and had to overcome those hurdles in their life. I think that does something to a person. The trials and tribulations, I mean, of life in general, and everyone, literally every person who exists has struggle to some degree. I feel that I've been very lucky and I haven't had to face a lot of adversity in my life. And I feel like I do lack something that other people have. And I guess there's a bit of jealousy or whatever, but I am so fortunate and so lucky that I have to understand that.
Yeah.
And I have to appreciate my experience because it's unique to me, and really it's the only one I've got. But I do have a giant amount of respect for people who have been through those trials and tribulations and come out on the other side and what they've gained from it. But I did want to mention real quickly, I know that you referenced it earlier, but I have this ability to not worry about things. It's like one of my sort of core philosophies that if you are worrying about a bad event that might happen in the future, you're taking all that negative energy that is a percentage chance that may happen, but it also may not. But you're sort of bringing it from this potential future event and you're bringing it into the present and making it a definitive, actual, realized thing. So the chances of the bad thing happening are 10%, 20%, 50%, but there's a 100% chance that you're being negatively impacted by it right now if you start worrying about it. And not everyone's brain can work that way. So people tend to be jealous at times of my ability to do that. But there's a blessing and a curse that happens because my like emotional happiness quotient or whatever happens on a different scale, whereas most people are 1 to 10, and 1 being despair and 10 being complete jubilation. I really kind of only exist in this 4 to 6 range. So when bad things happen, I just drop down to a 4. So if there's a bad event happening, I'm sometimes good to have around because I don't get that down. But it's also unfortunate when you're up at a 10 and I'm sitting here at a 6 and it feels like a bummer. So I tend to be seen as a bit of a Debbie Downer.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I was actually having a very similar discussion with this about the similar thing recently. I was telling someone why I don't like taking SSRIs, antidepressants, because, like, yeah, they keep you out of. I mean, well, personally, I don't really think they work at all, but they can keep you out of the lowest points, but they will also keep you out of the highest points.
Right,
like,
right.
You're just emotionally flat.
Mm.
There's like no color to the world, but the flip side of that is like, yes, like if you're in a place where like the lows are too low to even risk not having a safety net, then yes, it is worth it. But for me, it was just kind of numbing, and I felt like I was willing to try other forms of treatment than just like the daily pill, because I felt like I've dealt with it long enough that I know what the important things to do are when you start recognizing the low. So in a lot of ways, very similar. We're just
except
on opposite ends of the emotion spectrum.
The completely opposite, but the same. And I think it totally makes sense. That's a huge sacrifice that you have to make, and it's one that was sort of made for me. But I can understand that dealing with those lows might be worth it in order to achieve those highs and to actually feel things. So yeah, I guess I'll just have to take my lumps as far as not experiencing those highs and lows and just accept the good and bad with not having good or bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. I actually just looked this up because I'm highly interested in like alternative therapies for depression. They've been doing. I think there's plenty of places in California that do this, but they just started their first study of it here in Sweden last month, which is using psilocybin mushrooms.
Yeah,
therapy. I am going to try to figure out how to get in that study, because I've done mushrooms a few times, and as soon as I started reading about it, I was like, I know exactly what they're doing with this, even though I was never using it in like a setting or with a goal like that. But I know the feeling that you get after. And it's just,
Right.
yeah, it makes sense. I bet it works for a lot of people.
Yeah, I have no experience with it, but I've heard, I think it was a while ago, people were talking about treating PTSD with it and trauma. And actually, a lot of the therapy community, I think, is talking about doing that as well. Apparently, you can, in that state, you can deal with trauma and your brain is processing it in a completely different way.
Yeah.
There's also a really interesting thing that my girlfriend told me about called, I believe it's EMDR, which is a new form of therapy where I think it replicates REM sleep in a way where your eye movement is happening in a certain way, and it corresponds to the process. Like at night when we go through REM sleep, we're processing apparently the day's events. That's basically what our brain is doing, is like cataloging things or whatever it is. And what they're trying to do is use that as a therapeutic tool to bring up things that aren't fully processed and trauma and stress, and use that pattern of movement to associate, or that is associated with, I don't know how to explain it, but the the process that happens at night is the same one that we're using sort of targeted for specific events.
Mhm.
Seems cool.
That is interesting. I'm gonna Google that when we get done with this, or send me a link or something.
I will do that.
It would be cool to take mushrooms and feel better.
Yeah. I guess whatever gets the job done is good.
Anyways, what were we here for? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
the 1988 comedy, I guess cult classic, maybe not cult classic, maybe
Whoa.
not even classic. A
Whoa,
1988
whoa.
movie directed by Ivan Reitman,
Hold on.
starring two heavyweights, Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Wait.
Called Twins.
So you're saying that you don't think this is a classic? I would say this is definitively a classic. I don't know about cult, but,
I think I spent too much time when I was Googling this on Reddit, and I think that there was I think I actually read a debate about the difference between a classic and a cult classic and where this lies.
So you're the expert now, I see.
No. I think you're right.
Well-
and I think that I was correcting myself on the right side also.
Okay. I like that.
But this was a huge
Wait.
movie.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to...
Welcome.
Yes, it's another episode of It's Always Stockholm in Los Angeles. This week we're doing a little palate cleanser, if you will, between seasons 1 and seasons 2. But we didn't want to cleanse our palates too much, so we wanted to keep it a little dirty, and we went with Danny DeVito because we're really excited for him to enter into season 2. And we figured, why not watch the movie Twins starring Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito, which I haven't seen in probably a million years.
Definitely, same here. Yeah, it's funny because we were on the phone last night being like, okay, let's see Danny DeVito movies. I think the first one I said was, what is it, Batman Returns, the second.
Yeah.
And
Penguin, yeah.
Yeah, for whatever reason, that one popped up in my head first. And then I think Twins was the second one I said, which is kind of perfect because as I watched this movie, I realized this is...
Right. Yeah.
I mean, there are a few differences, but this is the Frank Reynolds origin story.
Right. It's almost uncanny how well it works. It's crazy.
It's amazing. I mean, from the first second on the screen, I'm like, oh, yeah, it's Frank.
Right. And the craziest part for me is that it's not just his crazy, disgusting character. It's the whole arc of it. In Always Sunny, you see him as the businessman, the warthog, but then you see him talking about his old life of depravity, and then he goes back to it, transitions in and out, and you see the same thing kind of in this because he's this scheming, slick car thief, this, that, and the other, and then at the end he transitions through the help of Arnold Schwarzenegger into this, businessman. I mean, still a little shady, obviously, but it just works so well on both levels. It's crazy. It's kind of uncanny how well it was written, and it makes you kind of think maybe there's something to it.
Totally.
Maybe Always Sunny did the research and planned it out just for this purpose. Yeah. They had both characters ready, the depravity and, the
warthog.
Exactly. Yeah, they had both.
Yeah. I was going to say, even though we're not talking about it on this episode, I do think that just to clarify the Frank Reynolds origin story, I think Vincent from Twins and Louis De Palma from Taxi. If you combine those two Danny DeVito roles, that is 100% Frank. I ended up watching a bunch of like Taxi, like best of, Danny DeVito and Taxi, and holy shit, dude, there's just some like verbatim, like the anger of Louis De Palma mixed with the like sleaziness of Vincent from Twins is just the perfect combination.
Right. And it's, you could almost see his evolution or de-evolution in Always Sunny, because he becomes almost this monster. He becomes like a little troll, paying the troll toll, and he's just like, he makes noises, and he's, I don't know, you can see it. You could see the transition in this movie when he dances, when he's happy, when he's angry, when he switches. It really seems like an evolution of him. Just what he says and what he does. It's the same character.
The noise that I was going to say, like you said, like making sounds, there's a part where he goes, huh? And it's just that huh, but it sounds exactly like Frank. Huh? Yeah, so the movie's like, they're combining the genetic material of 6 men with genetic excellence, I think is the term they use, and one 18-year-old Heather Graham, apparently uncredited in this movie. I don't understand how that works, how you can be in a movie and not be credited. That's right. What it said on IMDb. I'm just telling you what I read.
Yeah, it seems very odd, but I guess she didn't have any lines. Is that the reason? But it was like,
yeah, maybe
she was like a focal point. The picture that they had
pretty
of
important.
her. Yeah, they like showed that picture around everywhere, and it was in, every 10 minutes you see a picture of her. But basically the premise, as you said, was the genetics of this, or DNA of the 6 people mixed with this of 6 guys, with the one woman who gives birth, who is also just brilliant and talented and perfect. And she has the child, but the embryo splits, and one side is Arnold Schwarzenegger, who they were trying to achieve, the perfect human, and then the other twin is all the leftover genetic crap, as they say in the movie, and that is Danny DeVito, our beloved.
Yeah. There's a weird like Nazi sci-fi vibe with the whole process, because it's like,
yeah, totally.
How do you combine 6 people?
Yeah,
like if we're talking sperm, I mean, only
right. I mean, that's
one, right?
I think that's the suspended disbelief part. The technology that we don't have yet.
Yeah,
but
I can live with it. It did have some Nazi vibe. There was definitely like a Nazi.
Right, exactly. And the perfect human is this tall, blondish Austrian dude, so it's not even veiled. Yeah,
exactly. And Heather Graham was like super Aryan, like yeah. I guess we can just like kind of like go through the movie a little bit.
Right. I didn't make any notes. I just watched it kind of for fun.
I made some notes. I thought it was pretty cool. So like Arnold Schwarzenegger, this might have been his first comedic role. I'm not sure. But I feel like he was genuinely having a blast making this movie.
Right.
Like, it really seems like this is something that he's probably wanted to do.
Oh, probably, yeah.
Since his English got to the point where he didn't have to do, like, overdubs on everything he said. He can really, like, he's perfect. He's got his shirt off a lot. He's, like, the dumb, smart guy. He really nails it. And then didn't this team make another movie like kind of soon after that?
I don't know.
Junior?
Well, it sounds like you researched it, so why don't you tell me about it?
Well, kind of. I know that Danny DeVito and Arnold are the 2 stars, and I think it was directed by Ivan Reitman too. Because it was just like, this is just such a killer team.
I mean, it really does work. It works.
It really does. The plot is completely insane, but they make it really enjoyable, like way more enjoyable than it probably was in the script.
Oh, also, I think it's very important to talk about Linda, who is Danny DeVito's character's girlfriend in the movie. She is the actress that later plays the mom from Shameless, which I've been watching for the past like 5 years or something. Have you seen that show at all?
Yeah, I've seen a few episodes of that. I don't remember there being a mom. I just remember the dad.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So it's great, but that's part of the plot is the mom is not there very often. But but she comes in once a season for a few episodes here and there, and she's bipolar, and she's kind of out there, and she's like kind of a loose cannon. So she's a whirlwind. She comes in, and sometimes it's actually great and really upbeat and super fun, but within a few days she kind of cycles in and out of the bipolar situation. So she becomes really toxic for the family. And it's wild because just like Danny DeVito's character, her character kind of looks like the origin story for the Shameless mom, because you can sort of see her as this wild, like party girl from the 80s. And
yeah, she was really, really great. And her and Danny DeVito are very cute together because like she really loves him, and he probably loves her more than he would be willing to admit.
Right.
I noticed that, so like Vincent grew up in an orphanage, and it's like, what did they say? His mother abandoned him there. And when Arnold's character goes to visit the orphanage where he grew up, the nun, the like head nun, whatever you want to call that, is the grandma from Happy Gilmore.
What? Really?
Yeah, because I
crazy.
instantly recognized her as like, she has a very distinct look, and she must have looked really old for a really long time.
Once you're at that age, do you really change that much? And actually, now that I think about it, how far apart could those movies be? Like, this is late 80s, then how many years later? Happy Gilmore, early 90s?
I think it was 6 years.
Right. So at that point, you're really not changing that much.
Yeah, you're right.
You're done growing.
There was some like really the like proto Frank Reynolds stuff when you see Danny DeVito's character's office, just the door of his office where it says like everything he does, where he's like talent agent, he's import export, and then the funniest thing I noted on that is wholesale patio furniture was at the bottom.
Right. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to see it on the door, but I did see it when the secretary answers the phone and says, sports agent, patio furniture.
Right.
Yeah, it seems like he's just doing whatever he can. He's just got a hustle going and just scraping by doing it.
Yeah, there was just like, just being like a, whatever you want to call, not necessarily like purely grift, but it's like 95% grift probably.
Right. It's Frank. He's scheming.
Yeah.
Scams.
Stealing cars seems to be like the primary form of income.
Right. And whatever it was that he used that $20,000 for that, he's in debt for.
The beginning of the movie just kind of throws you into Vincent's life, where he's like stealing cars and he's running away from angry husbands. And I just got the vibe that he was homeless. And then I was surprised when he walked into he had like, even though his furniture is getting possessed by the whatever rental agency that he rented it from.
Watch out for ghosts.
Oh, repossessed. Sorry. Yeah. Repossessed. I'm sorry.
Right. Like you had an exorcism and then it happened again.
Just got it exorcised. Oh, good stuff. Yeah, so like you see that and I was like, okay, I didn't expect like this kind of guy to have an office, because he was also trying to sell socks right before that, like a case full of socks or a cardboard box full of socks.
High quality, come on.
I thought it was going to be denims, but that's okay. Frank moves from socks to denims, I'm assuming.
Right.
Anyways, but then they like, as the movie progresses, like you also go to his house, which is like kind of a nice normal house, and he has a cat. Like I just really thought he was going to be a homeless guy,
right,
who was just like crashing with whatever girlfriend he had at the time.
Right. Personally, I didn't immediately go there, but that's that's a perfectly reasonable assumption. I get that.
Yeah.
So, what else? What else do we have? Kelly Preston. I mean, she's cool.
Kelly Preston, rest in peace.
Yeah, R.I.P.
Yeah, pretty recent. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't like go too deep into like IMDbing this, but I'm assuming this is one of her earlier roles. She's like the hot sister who becomes enamored with Arnold.
Yeah. So this is Linda's sister, Marnie, and she's a babe. So you've got her, she's a hard body. Then you've got Arnold, he's a hard body. So yeah, they just make a great couple. That's just,
They really do. Yeah, and it's like a classic. Like, obviously, movie was made in the 80s because at one point, Danny DeVito is like makes the connection. He's like, "Oh, you're a virgin." He's like, "I can't believe it, 230-pound virgin." You know, like
Right.
a big deal is made out of that, which is like
Little dated.
how many '80s movies discuss
Right. The trope.
virginity.
Right.
Yeah.
So I did a small amount of research on Kelly Preston, and it seemed like she was really happening at this time, but I didn't know a ton of her roles. It seemed like this might have been the one that I was most familiar with, but she was married to some actor and then dated George Clooney at some point, and then she was married to John Travolta. I think that was her deal.
Kelly Preston.
Yeah, and then but she was dating the most important thing. She was dating Charlie Sheen at one point, maybe in the early 90s or something. And I think they broke up because he shot her in the arm.
Oh yeah, I vaguely remember this. Yeah. Huh. She had a very interesting life. I would say her biggest role would have been Jerry Maguire.
Oh,
But
really?
that's just me.
Yeah,
I'm not
I mean,
like
that's huge, but I didn't know that. I must have missed that in my dedicated research.
she was Jerry's girlfriend.
Oh, I just remember Renee Zellweger.
There's a very intense sex scene with her kind of at the beginning of the movie.
Oh, really?
I just remember being like however old I was, 12, and like my sister had rented that movie and I was pretty amazed at it.
Yeah.
They're
okay.
having sex in the kitchen.
Well, maybe I will have to go do some more research.
Yeah, I'm sure you can find it.
TawdrySexScenes.com.
You also pointed out that that Arnold says "I'll be back" at one point, which was pretty funny.
Right. Yeah, and as you said, it might have been his first comedic role, so I wonder if that was, the first time they got to use it in a lighthearted way instead of like Terminator or, whatever.
Predator.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
There was also that weird scene where he was looking at the Rambo poster and then like looking at his muscles in comparison, because there must have been, I'm sure there was some sort of a rivalry between those guys at that time.
Oh, yeah, I actually didn't notice that, but yeah, that makes sense. I mean, they were two of the big ones.
Oh yeah.
Did you have a favorite action star from the 80s?
Well, I never really got to see those movies when I was a kid. They were not allowed in the Harold household. I think the first one that I saw, which I guess it wasn't even 80s, but the first thing I saw Arnold in was Terminator 2.
Well, that's a great movie.
That's like early 90s. Yeah, no, I never saw any of the Rambo movies or anything like that.
Well, you've got Arnold, then you've got Sylvester Stallone, and for a really brief moment, you had Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Definitely.
Right. I mean, Bloodsport was a big deal. Yeah.
Bloodsport's the movie where there's like that story of Donald Trump and Donald Trump Jr. Watching that movie together, but fast forwarding through anything with dialogue, just getting to all the action scenes. They would only watch the action scenes.
Well, I don't remember the plot really that well, so
never saw it. Couldn't tell you.
Oh my God. All right, we have to watch that one. Okay, done.
Okay, cool.
And then finally, my favorite, possibly Chuck Norris. I mean, how could the 80s be complete without Chuck Norris?
I did see Delta Force.
Nice. Yeah, that rules.
That's him and Louis Gossett Jr., if I recall correctly.
Man, those were like franchises. There were so many good like series at the time. Yeah.
The one thing I wanted to discuss with you was the scene when they're like on the road or whatever, and they're staying in some town in New Mexico, Los Alamos, maybe is that where they are?
Oof,
and
I
they
don't
go
know.
to like the nightclub, and there's a band playing.
Oh yeah, that was great.
Okay, here's my question: is the name of the band Daddy's Girl, or is that the name of the club?
Oh, I don't know. Was that the sign behind them?
It's a big neon sign behind the band, so it really could go either way.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, being a giant neon sign behind the band, I think that's where the club would probably do it. It seems permanent, but at the time in the 80s, maybe bands were traveling with neon signs, and it's actually a great band name. So
it really is.
Yeah. Logically, I would say club, but no, it's a great band name.
I mean, yeah, it's such a good band name. But I guess, yeah, so notably in that scene, the drummer is Terry Bozzio, who's like a famous drummer.
Yeah, he's a big session dude. Like, yeah, he plays on everything.
My first clue that it was Terry Bozzio was he had two kick drums and they both said Bozzio. on them.
Okay.
So
That's reasonable.
yeah, I had to really track that one down. But Jeff Beck was the guitar player.
Shit, really? Yo, that's why I didn't pay attention to anything else in this scene, because he just seems like so legit. He seemed, I don't know, also he's like cool hair in the 80s, but now it would work.
Totally.
And
well,
he looks like he would be in a band with the McPoyles.
Yeah, he probably could be. There was like a 7-second transition in the song when it was like some sort of like cutaway, like across the dance floor, and there was a guitar fill that was just like absolutely insane,
Right.
and also like 10 dB louder than the guitar had been previously. And then at the last bar of that guitar solo, there's also a drum fill that becomes absurdly loud. And so I feel like those two guys were like, you got to give us something in this.
Right, they're putting it in their contract to be featured musicians, prominent. What about the bass player? Is she in it?
I don't know who the bass player. The bass player didn't look like she was playing anything. That she looked like
like an actor,
actor prop style. The singer was Nicolette Larson. She is best known for her work with Neil Young.
Larson. Perhaps she is your neighbor.
I don't think she's alive anymore.
Perhaps she's your dead neighbor.
Yeah, no one that I was like familiar with, but she. Yeah, it seemed like some of the band members were like featured. Right. They must have known like one of the producers or someone.
Right.
Because you very easily could have just cast that with like whatever.
I was blissfully unaware of what was happening.
Yeah, the whole point of that scene is the dancing, which kind of like climaxes with Danny and Arnold dancing. They do a lot of things where they really make it clear that Danny Devito is 4'10".
Well, yeah, that's the premise.
Really, any excuse to show that off.
Right, the juxtaposition of the two of them doing anything next to each other especially when they're dressed in the same clothes and do the same gesture or movement.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good.
I mean,
it's so good.
It's pretty adorable. You've got, it's the weirdest thing. Arnold is like this giant, like hyper virile man, but he looks like a little kid sometimes, especially in some of these outfits, like someone dressed him.
Yeah, he does have a really like childlike thing about him, especially like in a comedic role where he's like fish out of water.
Right.
He's like insanely book smart, but like doesn't know anything about anything in the real world.
Right. Super naive. I think that's a little bit of a trope too. He's like stranger in a strange land.
Yeah, the movie kind of like, the beginning of the movie is like this weird Nazi type genetic fusing of 6 men experiment. Like, it's not really described. Science doesn't really seem to make a lot of sense, which is, nothing like that really happens again in the movie until the third act, where they start feeling each other's pain.
Right.
All of a sudden.
Well, I think there was earlier in the movie, wasn't there kind of, I don't know, Arnold can sort of sense what Danny's going through, or what choices he would make, or where he's going to go. He's able to track him down pretty easily. Yeah,
I thought that overall this movie was like super entertaining. It was a well spent $3.99, and then in the end you get some more like doses of Frank Reynolds when Vincent skims $1 million off of the money that they returned. Who did they return the money to?
Right. That's a good question.
It says they returned the $5 million, but the guy was dead, wasn't he?
Right. Beetroot, he was the one who purchased this injector from them. So he was in the Cadillac, so he died. And then there were the 2 guys that stole it from their company to sell it, and they would have talked about $5 million if they were involved. So I'm assuming maybe they never found out, the police never found out about them. So yeah, I guess they returned it to the police. I don't know, turned it in. I don't really know what happened, but yeah, basically, they skimmed a little off the top, and and they were able to keep $1 million when they returned the rest.
Well, Vincent kept $1 million.
Oh,
because they said so many times, they were saying like $5 million, They made a point of him saying $5 million like 1,000 times in the movie, and then at the end he says $4 million. $4 million.
But doesn't Arnold know how much?
There's no way Arnold's character would be okay with them skimming. He wouldn't have been a part of that transaction.
Yeah, I guess you're right. But I could have sworn that he said it. That either Danny DeVito said it at the end or somewhere.
No, because he said a fortune. Because his girlfriend repeated that. He says it's worth a fortune. There's no specifics.
Oh, I see.
But my main concern with that was who would they give the money to? Because it was money being paid for a stolen piece of technology. The guy's dead that was buying it, so I don't know where that money would go.
Right. Yeah, I guess, I don't know. Suspended disbelief maybe is the way to go. I don't know. That makes the most sense to just wrap it up cleanly because, yeah, they returned it to the police, said they found this thing and, whatever.
They got $50,000. They got $50,000 from the, whatever company that made the thing. And then a really dumb, typical 80s ending where it's they now have a mom.
Oh, I thought it was kind of cute when when Marianne came back and came to the office and she finally found out the truth. I thought that was really sweet. Oh,
that part I'm okay with that part. It's the last scene when it's they look so much alike. And it's maybe implied that they're talking about Arnold and Danny DeVito, but they're probably talking about the two sets of twin, very small babies that...
Oh, yeah. The tag, just like the cheesy Always Sunny tags from that first season.
Exactly. Yeah, it's exactly the same thing.
Right.
Yeah, I wish they hadn't done it, but we do get to see a very young Dennis and Dee Reynolds in the stroller.
Whoa. Okay, I didn't think about that one. That's wild.
Yeah. Well, they're 12 years too young for Dennis and Dee if we're talking about the timeline, but...
Right, but still, I mean, if you just have a little bit of suspended disbelief, that's insane.
Right.
What are the chances that they would have written that perfectly?
Yeah, exactly. It's the idea is that Dennis and Dee are the children of Danny DeVito and Kelly Preston.
Whoa, hold on. No, it would be Danny DeVito and his girlfriend Linda, the mom from Shameless.
Oh, right. Yeah, sorry. Shameless chick.
But still, that's crazy that Always Sunny has twins, Dee and Dennis, for the first season, and then they introduced this character which wasn't written prior to that for the second season, Danny DeVito, and in this movie that Danny DeVito was in 20 years prior, it ended with him, which is a character that resembles the character that will be in Always Sunny, and it ends with him having twins, a boy and a girl. How is that possible? That is some next level writing. That's just insane.
A huge team of people separated by the years, really. But I mean, anyways, overall, I really for as cheesy and 80s and as horrible as the music was, it still was way more enjoyable than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah,
I think it was because after that first appearance of Danny DeVito in this movie, I was like, this is Frank, and I just watched the movie, in my head, that was just Frank, and it became. That's probably why it was so much more enjoyable than I thought.
Well, I think more so than anything, it probably just shows you how good Danny DeVito is at that character. He's been developing it forever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there must be a little bit of Danny in all these sketchy characters he's playing because he's way too good at it. It's like when we were talking about the shitty kid that's not Charlie's son, who also goes on to play the shitty kid of Meredith from The Office. Is he really good at that, or is that part of his personality?
Oh God, he's the worst, but yeah, maybe the best.
Although Danny DeVito seems like a sweet man, so I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, he seems adorable and the best. So yeah, but yeah. So does that mean that we should go back and watch all the movies that you read about on that Reddit thread? The origin stories in total.
It was Taxi. It was Twins. It was...
And One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest?
Yeah, that one seems like a stretch to me. I think the only reason that one was brought up was because Frank was also placed in a mental institution.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it could be worthwhile still. I'm sure it's
Yeah.
a good movie, although I don't know. I haven't seen it in probably 30 million years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't remember what his character's like at all, but he's probably good regardless.
But yeah, I think this could be like a good fallback or like extra bonus episodes to do like this background research on these characters. Origin story.
Yeah, exactly. In between every season, we'll pick one character, and we'll do the origin story. Perfect.
But yeah, this was just kind of dumb luck that this was the one we decided on, and because I hadn't thought about this movie in probably 30 years.
Right, and it happens to be perfect.
Exactly.
It couldn't ask for anything more.
And that's that.
Yeah. All right. So what do you think? Should we wrap things up? How do we do that?
We're hard at work on revolutionizing podcasting as we know it with a whole new art form that'll hopefully be done by next week.
I like to refer to it as the song imploder.
Yeah, it's a song imploder. Should be interesting. We're working on it. It's going very slowly, but I think it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, and for season 2, if all goes well, we'll have a theme song for you.
And we have our first guest tentatively booked. Emily Moore will be discussing season 2, episode 1 with us.
Which obviously we're all excited about because Frank Reynolds.
Yup. Okay, well, I am going to go have some dinner and not pay attention to the news. What are you going to do for the rest of the day since you have to be awake for this whole thing? Well, you don't have to, I guess.
Right, I could take a midday nap, but yeah, I'll go about my business. I'm not going to follow it too obsessively, but I'm sure it'll make its way, into my life.
And, I mean, I feel like I know that we explained ourselves as clearly as possible at the beginning, but, I mean, I'm going to go ahead and speak for you. And, like, we really do care about the outcome, of course.
Right. We just think there's a limited upside. It truly is the culmination of probably years of effort on the lesser of two evils concept.
Yeah.
And having said that, that just leads us to what we have to do after, which is the hard work, which sometimes gets, swept under the rug and just resurfacing every 4 years. But
yeah,
we actually have to try and change things for the better. And that's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen with a single election,
Yeah.
Well, certainly not this one, but...
Exactly. Spot on, my man. Well, best of luck to you. Hopefully, America doesn't burn down.
And on that note, thanks for listening. We'll see you next week. Another one in the can. Sounds great. See ya. Bye.
Nice.
Great. Killed.
I'm going to hit stop.
Killed it. Okay, cool. Me too. See you later.